Hi, everyone, and welcome to Messy Church for September. Today we're talking about Jesus calming a storm. How well do you sleep? Do you go to sleep real easily? Oftentimes, children have a hard time going to sleep. And then when they're really little, there's things that we do as parents that help them to go to sleep. Sometimes all it takes is being held real tight and rocking and rocking. And I remember when I was a kid, how wonderful it was to sit in a parent or grandparent's lap and just have them rock me to sleep. I felt so safe. I knew that everything was going to be okay. There were, I didn't know a lot about the world and I didn't have a lot to be worried about. But what I did know was that the person I was with, who was warm and comfortable and safe, would make sure that I was going to be okay, no matter what happened. They didn't have to say that to me, just by holding me and rocking me. That rhythm put me to sleep. For other people, sometimes when they're little babies, what the parents do is put them in a car seat and go for a drive. Because sometimes just being in that car and moving around down the street and turning sometimes one way and another, slowing down and speeding up, it's almost like that rocking. And you know that you're with people who care about you. And so even today, sometimes when I'm in a car, if it's a long trip, I'll just start to go to, unless I'm driving. Oh, okay. So there are things that when we grow up, we have to worry about. And so it makes it sometimes harder for people to go to sleep. One of the reasons I like to pray before I go to sleep is that in talking to God, I know that I'm going to be okay, that God loves me. And there's oftentimes prayers we say before we go to bed to help us go to sleep. Do you say something that starts like, "Now I lay me down to sleep"? Yes, I'm getting ready to rest, and God is going to make sure that I'm okay. It's sort of like God is rocking me to sleep when I pray. And let me tell you something. If you're saying your prayers while you're laying down in bed and you go to sleep, that's okay. It's kind of like talking to God all night long. As I got older, I had sometimes a harder time going to sleep. And I remember as a kid still seeing some commercials on television that really kind of reminded me of what I was going through. These were commercials about a beverage, about something that people drink. And it had this peppy little tune that would go on. And there was a man in a suit sitting at a very modern white table. And all these things would go on around him. All these horrible things would go on around him, but he was very calm. He was very peaceful. And he would drink his beverage and he would be just fine. Even as, well, one time a tree fell behind him. Another time an airplane took off right over his head. Another time, there was a hockey game that was going on around him, and he was on the hockey rink, and there were people who were moving that puck all around him, but he was very calm and he was very peaceful. One time, his table and his chair were in the ocean, and as he was sitting there, a shark came up and bit his table in half. But he was very calm and peaceful. And I thought, what is it that he knows? How is it that he is able to be so calm even when all these things were going on around him? Well, that man wasn't Jesus, but it sort of reminded me about that story that we're going to be talking about this week at Messy Church. The story goes like this. Jesus was getting very popular and people wanted to be around him. And so the crowds would come in asking him for all sorts of help. And every once in a while, it got to be too much. And so he got with his disciples onto a boat and he said, "Let's go over on the other side of the lake." And they went over on this big lake, as big as an ocean almost, all the way to the other side so he could be at peace. And once he got out there, he could rest and he fell asleep. You can imagine it's easy to fall asleep on a boat that's rocking gently in the waves. But then a storm came up. There was rain that was falling, and the wind was blowing, and the boat really began to rock, and they all got very afraid. But there was Jesus, just staying asleep. We thought, what are we gonna do? Let, let's go over and wake him up. And so they went over and they nudged him, and they nudged him. Hey, Jesus, Jesus, wake up. The storm is here, and we don't know what to do. And Jesus got up, and he looked at them, and he said, don't you have faith? And he went and he looked at the storm, and he told the storm to calm down. And the waves calmed down, and the rain stopped, and the wind stopped blowing quite so strong. There was still enough for the water to keep moving the boat a little bit, and it rocked, and he went back to sleep. The disciples were amazed. Wow, what is this faith he has? What does he know that allows him to sleep even when the storm comes up? Well, there's this. We're told in the Gospel of John that when everything was made, Jesus was there. So Jesus knew how the world worked. And he knew that he wasn't going to have that boat tip over while he was sleeping. He was going to be okay. It was his faith, in the same way that a little child goes to sleep in its parents' arms because they know they're going to be safe. It's going to be okay. And I imagine, although the Bible doesn't say this, that once the disciples realized that, they might just have gotten a little bit of sleep too, because they had a little bit more faith that God loved them and was going to care for them and help them through even the stormy times. God will find us a way. So, how do you sleep? I invite you to continue with Messy Church, but also to imagine yourself tonight, as you're getting ready for bed, that it is God who is holding you in your arms, in his arms, as you go to sleep, and God gently rocks you, maybe like a grandma, rocks you to sleep, and you know it's gonna be okay. Well, we have lots of things planned for today to help you to know how to understand this faith. So you'll get more directions in a little bit on how to participate in Messy Church, and I will see you on Saturday evening. Bye-bye.